So what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Alan, and welcome to probably one of the more unoriginal videos I could possibly make on this channel. I wanted to just Am I just gonna keep stuttering today? Is that just what? That's just what's gonna happen, isn't it? This is why I don't do commentary. Um, Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Like it says in the bottom, it is 9:13 a.m. and did not sleep a slight bit last night. And I was like, you know what I want to do since it's October? I want to do something with Michael Myers. What are you loading? I saw it. It was loading something. What? This computer struggles with everything. I could be moving a pebble in real time and this computer will start acting up. Anyways, today, as you can see, we're doing a Myers Mask ranking. I'm pretty tired and low energy, but I'm gonna try I'm gonna try my best not to sound like the teacher from Free. Oh my god! Oh my god! I can't speak. I'm gonna try my best to not sound like the teacher from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So we have the original Michael Myers when he was little, from 1963, all the way up to Halloween Ends Michael, which is the most recent, as of recording this video, most recent version of the character that could be seen. So let's just get this going, right? 1963 Michael. To be honest, I don't know. I never really put much thought into the first appearances of him. You see him for like, what, a split second? Really, him in the mask you see for like a split second, and then the rest of that is just a shot of him, like a dolly shot going away from Michael as a little kid, and he doesn't even have the mask on. You just kind of see him, and yeah, I mean it's just a little kid's clown costume. I don't know what else to. Oh, excuse me. I don't know what else to say. It's just a costume to give him. I know the reason why they gave it to him. They were planning for Michael to have that similar type of outfit as an adult. I know they were considering the Emmett Kelly clown mask and some other stuff. And obviously they ended up going with good old William Shatner here. I don't know how we went from William Shatner to what is basically the Mona Lisa over here, I think. And then we went from that to Mr. Hairline, and, you know, yeah, just CGI guy. But, you know, we're gonna run through them. We're gonna talk about them. I'm gonna go in depth a little bit on each mask and then go from there. So, where do we put this guy? Where do we put him? I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. I wouldn't say tolerable. He's not really bad. I would say it's terrifying. I would put it in terrifying. I'm gonna have to make this an actual topic then, because I really don't know what to call this guy. I really don't know what else to say. It's all right. It's a design. It's not bad. It's not the best thing ever. It's just, yeah. There he is, little Michael Myers. The original Michael Myers from 1978. You're probably seeing this coming. It's absolutely horrible. I think this is possibly the worst that he has ever looked on film. I'm not a fan of it, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a fan of this mask. Now, before you click off, because I am kind of scared that most people would, I'm going to move this up to the proper spot that it needs to be. I say as I put it on tolerable. I have this spot reserved specifically for the original Michael Myers. He is the shape, nothing more, nothing less. He serves his purpose, and he is scary. And not to be one of those glazers of the first Halloween by any means, even though I think the first Halloween does a lot of things great, I don't think it's the best Halloween film by far. But I do think it is a great example of what a Halloween film should be. And one of the best examples in said film is the design of Michael Myers. To this day, I do not think that the design of Michael Myers in that film has been beaten. I think some have come close, in my personal opinion. And, yeah, that's all I can really say about that. Some have gotten close, but I don't think any will really scratch the itch that the original Michael Myers have in terms of the build of the actor, the performance, the mask. And I will go into the performances of each actor to some degree as well. I do want to include that because most people just talk about the masks. And I do think the actors and performances do kind of go hand in hand. So, you know, we'll do a little bit of both. But overall, little kid actor Michael. Not really much to say about him. Most of it is the first person POV, and you know, you could be doing anything. You could be doing anything. You could be doing goddamn Gangnam Style behind the POV of the camera. No one would know. So it doesn't really matter there. I mean, I would say his 1,000-yard stare at the end is pretty good. He does a pretty good performance for what it is, but not really anything groundbreaking. Nick Castle, on the other hand, I will say is the complete polar opposite. Obviously, Nick Castle's the OG shape, and you know, left a lasting impression for a lot of people on how Michael Myers should act, how he should move, the fluidity. He's a very liquid actor when it comes to Michael. You know, you could tell he's had some dance training. He's a very liquid moving Michael Myers. He doesn't do the robotic stuff. He doesn't move obnoxiously slow. He has a good walking pace. And for most of the film, the walk you see that he does is just his natural walk. He just decided, yeah, I'm just going to do my normal walk and go down to the camera. And that's what worked best. He didn't overthink it. He just kind of did it. And because of that, we have, to this day, what I think is the best performance for Michael Myers. Let's move on to Halloween 2. Now, I will say this. I am fully aware that the original Halloween 2 reuses the same mask as the first film. But this is just because you reuse the same mask doesn't mean I'm going to give you points automatically. They could reuse the same Michael Myers mask in a new film now, and I don't think it would really have the same impact because, one, you wouldn't be able to do that. The mask would just fall off the actor's head. It's completely destroyed. You'd have to rely on some sort of replica, like something from Nick Molpagano, where he made, you know, the Dead Relic or whatever it was called, and you know, that's a cool mask on its own. But even then, I feel like it just doesn't really look right. I can see where Christopher Nelson was going, where, you know, obviously people were like, oh, why didn't he just replicate the actual deteriorated version of the mask? Because the actual deteriorated version, one, I think shows a little too much of his face now. You can see his mouth and, you know, more of his eyes, and I don't think it would have worked as well unless you added a cinematic touch to it, like you didn't try to make it full practical. And the second reason being, I don't know, just I don't like it. I think it could look cool, you know, for photo ops and stuff, but in a film, I don't think the current state of the mask would work. And I think that kind of goes for this film. There are some shots where H2 Michael looks really good to me, and then others where Dick Warlock's face stretches out the mask so much that I really don't like how it looks. I'm just never a big fan of when the actor's face drastically changes the look of the mask. And the one instance I have that I don't mind that is, of course, Nick Castle, because he ended up just making the mask look even more ghostly because he ended up stretching it down from the chin. And I feel like that works better than stretching it from the side. Stretching it from the side just gives Michael this big nose and, you know, this weird elongated face and this round head shape that I don't like. On top of the fact that the hair is a lot more matted, I'm assuming from being stuck under a damn shoebox for a couple of years. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of it. By the way, ESPN, UFC, that's been plaguing me for a while now during this recording, so great. I'll put it in terrifying. I don't think it's awful, but I do think it is a downgrade, not just in performance, but in the look of him compared to Halloween 1. I'm not a fan of Dick Warlock's Michael Myers, to be honest. I think he can be good in some scenes, and in others, it's just, I don't know, it just feels like a downgrade from Nick Castle. Now, on to a Michael I like a little bit more, which is the bandaged Michael in Halloween 4. I did not make this tier list myself. This is literally just a template you can look up, but I think it has all the bases covered for what I would include anyways, so I just used this one and made my own topics. As you can see by the wording, this is not part of the template. Bandaged Michael in Halloween 4. This is the first time you see Michael in his burned up, damaged state after the events of H2. And, I don't know what to say, but I love it. I really do. I think it's cool. I think it's creepy. It reminds me of the Universal monsters, you know, like the Invisible Man and stuff. I think it's a pretty sick, unique little look. I don't think Michael should have had that for the whole film. I don't really hate what we got for H4. In some scenes, I think Michael in H4 looks horrible. Like, he looks like a scary movie parody. And then there's shots like this picture specifically that they chose where I think he doesn't look bad, to be honest. Like, I think it's just something to get used to. But before we get to that, I will put Damaged Michael in, I'll put him in Terrifying. He gives me the heebie-jeebies, personally. I don't know, you just, I don't know, something really creepy about the bandaged up hospital gown Michael. I would be more scared if I saw that versus coveralls Michael. And if you gave him this mask with the coveralls, I've seen edits of that, and honestly, that's pretty cool. I would definitely love to do a cosplay of that in the future. That is a super cool look. Now on to the elephant in the room, which I wouldn't even say H4 is the elephant in the room. We'll get to the elephant in the room on this ranking. But this mask, very controversial, of course, the H4 mask, and I don't know, I just can't hate it. I think there's some scenes where I think he looks terrible because it's just terribly shot. Like there's an upward angle when Michael chases the two girls on the roof and he stands up and George Wilbur just looks like he's gonna float away like he's a fucking balloon prop or something. And I think part of it is just because George Wilbur is... I'm very mixed on George Wilbur as Michael, similar to Dick Warlock. Some scenes he plays very amazingly, and he does very brutal things. And then in others, it's like, man, I kind of wish Tom Morga just took over for the rest of the film. Because Tom Morga, which I think is this scene, I can't remember if this is Tom Morga that did the infamous scene where Michael has a different mask for one shot in H4, which is the skin-colored Captain Kirk mask with the blonde hair. I can't remember if that was Tom Morga, but there's a lot of scenes like the Meeker House stuff where a lot of that was Tom Morga playing the character, and he looked really imposing. And then there's other scenes where it's clearly George Wilbur because he does some weird stuff where he just looks like, I don't know, it just looks like an NPC standing around to me. But I will say, design-wise, I don't despise H4. I think there's cases where the shoulder pads can make him look imposing, and then there's other cases where he just doesn't look good. So I'll put it in alright because it's not one I hate, but it's not one I exactly love either. I think it's just alright. I don't know, I feel like I'm a lot less brutal about these masks than other people. Daniel Harris showed that was a behind-the-scenes photo of the pink and blonde mask, and I'm gonna be honest, I think that's what won me over. When I saw the pink and blonde mask with the massive shoulder pad build Michael had in that film, in that specific shot, I think he actually looks really creepy. There's something really unsettling about just having what looks like a Kirk mask unconverted. Like, it just looks like Captain Kirk, but with the life literally just taken out of him. I think it's pretty haunting. So to be honest, not to LARP on this mask for too long, I'm just going to simply put it up into... I don't even know what I'm doing here. The whole thing is glitching out. What is happening? What is going on with my computer? Dog, what is happening? Okay. There it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to put the pink and blonde mask right there. It's alright. I think it's actually pretty creepy. But not enough to put into terrifying. I think it's just... It's an okay mask, and I think it would have worked if they just went with something like that for the film. Anyways, now on to the elephant in the room. Halloween 5. I know this mask does have its fans, so I don't want to be too harsh about it, but I think the mask fucking stinks. Is it the worst they could have done? Probably not. Ignore the glitching. Oh, I'm making it worse by scrolling around like this. Oh, I am. I think I am making it worse. Oh my god. But I think the H5 mask, this has gotta go in here, man. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of this mask, and as much as I know a lot of people... No, not a lot of people, but I know there's people that are fans of this masks, or are fans of this mask. I cannot speak today. I know there's people that are fans of this thing, but I'm not one of them. And I know that's not really surprising. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of it, but I just can't get behind it. I can't get behind the long neck, the face that it has, the ridiculously big forehead, the hair. You know, I think the one saving grace was Don Shanks' Michael Myers. I think he had a good performance, but I don't think it's enough for me to bring it up. I think this look works well with the scythe. You know, a long, elongated-looking mask with a giant, elongated-looking weapon, I think fits. But I just can't imagine how cool it would look if it had something like the Halloween 1 mask, for example. You know, Halloween 1 Michael with the scythe, I think just would look badass. And having this as a stand-in just pisses me off even more. It just breaks the whole thing for me. I'm sorry. And I'm someone that actually likes the Thorn trilogy. I think the ending of it was stupid. You know, the Halloween 6 stuff. The story is silly and cheesy, despite my love for Paul Rudd and everything in that film. Aside, when you disregard the incest weird storyline thing, I mean, that's only in one specific cut of the film, anyways. When you disregard that part of the film, I think it's just kind of like okay at best, and I think the trilogy as a whole is just alright. You know, it's the one I enjoy the most for the 80s aesthetic. But when it comes to defending Halloween 5 specifically, I could say, yeah, the rest of the film I think is watchable, even though there's terrible decisions like killing Rachel. One thing I can never defend and will never defend is just Halloween 5 as a whole. Or the whole film. Just the whole film. The Halloween 5 mask itself. Stumbling over my words. I should become a spokesperson. I'd do fucking numbers. This is where the tides kind of change for me, because we're on to Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And that mask, especially that picture, is really nice that they chose. The Halloween 6 mask is one I think is pretty spicy. I think this is a sexy design. Once again, George Wilbur is back as Michael Myers in this film, and I think he's just okay. I think there's some scenes where he looks really badass and imposing, like the first time you see him when he hangs that woman on the wall, and some other scenes he can look pretty cool. And then there's other scenes where he's walking down the hallway and he looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or the Michelin Man. He just looks round. Like, I don't know, I just never understood that. Having Michael be a normal-looking person, I understand. But having him look a little chunky, I don't, because that kind of takes it down for me. Like, I'm just like, okay, is Michael eating too many dogs or something? What's going on here? But, this is a picture from when Michael Lerner played H6 Michael, which was later down in the film where he took over from Wilbur, and he's basically the slimmer, well, I say slimmer, that one shot of him. But aside from that, he's generally seen as the slimmer, I think slightly lankier, taller Michael. You know, still big shoulders, but the rest of him is like really slim and lanky. That is a really cool build for Michael, just having this sort of stringy looking Michael Myers, and I think he pulls it off really well. I think he's the saving grace for this design. If it was just Wilbur himself, I don't think I would have liked it as much, because he just doesn't, I feel like, do it justice. But when Michael Lerner is in the shoes of this version of Michael, I think he is what really wins me over, because I don't know, he just looks awesome. So I'm going to plant him in terrifying, because there's a lot of things that he does in this film that honestly are scary. The way he does things, he is brutal. He is a brutal Michael Myers. This is really the first time that we get a brutal Michael. And H4 and H5 can be pretty brutal, but I feel like H6 was really the introduction of making Michael brutal in the same area as Jason. Anyways, on to Halloween H2O. What a lovely name for a movie. Halloween fucking water. I usually just call it Halloween 7, to be honest, because calling it H2O is just kind of embarrassing. Or H20 is a better way of calling it. But anyways, H7. I'm very mixed on this. It's kind of complicated. It's not as black and white as me saying it sucks, because there's things about it I like. I think the shot of it is a terrible example. This is a terrible look at this mask. You can see his eyes completely, and he just does not look great. But there are some shots I think he looks okay in. Halloween H2O is not a film that I think of when I think of a well-shot Halloween film, to be honest. Aside from the start of the film, right, aside from the very, very start when it's in, I don't think it's in Haddonfield, but it is in Illinois in October. And Michael in H2O, as you can see by these three pictures, he's had a few masks in that film, because the studio was completely just stupid and gave him a CGI mask at one point, which, let's just clear this out the way. Let's just put that right there. And he had the K&B mask, which was the first mask that he had for the film that they got from the company K&B, and halfway through they were like, this is terrible, we got to do reshoots. And then they went to the Stan Winston mask, which Stan Winston made a banger Godzilla design, that I will say, and they made that. And I can't be mad at it. Oh, let me just casually move this. Anyways, I feel like they did a good job. I think the problem was the film that it was in did not do it justice. You gotta understand, the original Michael Myers mask can look just as flat as this. Like, no detail, goofy eyes and everything. You could just have that. But because the first Halloween, and even the second one, were so well shot, all the details of the mask came out. The cheekbones, the lines in the forehead, the way the hair was styled, you know, trying to hide Michael's eyes as best as possible. Even when you see his eyes in some scenes, it's like, whoa, you're actually getting to see his eyes for once. It's pretty crazy, you know, because it's not something you usually get, and it's not something you usually should get, because the whole thing is he should be seen as this emotionless monster, and seeing his eyes takes away from that. That's why they focus so much on people like Batman and his eyes in live-action films, because that's what shows his human side. That's what shows the personality, so you don't just see a monster, you know. But in this case, Michael Myers should be seen as just a pure, simple, evil monster. Now, the actual Stan Winston mask itself, when I'm not talking about the film itself and the mask, I think the mask itself is okay. I think the mask itself is just kind of like fine, you know. There's a lot of details in it that remind me of the original mask, like just the Kirk mask. You know, it has the similar type of cheekbones and facial structure. The eye holes are a bit big, I think, but still, you know, I feel like it still has the essence of the Kirk mask. Last I remember, I think it does have the sideburn marks as well, which the H6 mask also has the sideburn marks, but so does this one. And I think maybe even the Resurrection and Rob Zombie masks, they try to keep that consistent for some reason. But as it's seen in the film, it does not look great. I'll put it in tolerable, because I don't think it's the worst he could look, but I do prefer the H4 mask. I think the H4 mask has scenes where it looks better than the H2O one, to be honest with you. Which might be a bit controversial, but I think there's scenes where H4 just looks nicer than H2, and not H2, but H2O. And it's because I feel like that film was just shot better. Even though there's scenes where Michael looks terrible, I think that's down to the fact that the mask was made to look too pale and flat with no detail whatsoever. But I think the actual lighting and design of the Thorn trilogy specifically looks good, you know. And if that carried over to Halloween H2O, I think we would have seen a lot more of the positive attributes to this mask. But as it stands, H7 goes into tolerable. As you can see, I put the rest of the H2 masks in shit. Because well, I mean, look at them. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the KNB mask, because I'm not even going to talk about the CGI mask that you see in, like, one scene for, like, a split second. I'm not even going to humor that. But the KNB mask, I think, looks better now, unironically. Like, in its more deteriorated state, the longer hair that it has now and everything, I think, looks nicer. But it's still not a mask I'd ever want to see Michael using, to be honest. It just doesn't give me Michael Myers vibes. Which I can't say the same for the Resurrection mask. Onto the Resurrection mask, I actually think that this is a decent mask. I don't think it's terrible. The film Halloween Resurrection, you can say whatever you want about it. I know everyone's got colorful things to say about it, and, you know, so do I. It's not the best, but if this was talking about the films, yeah, I probably would just put it here. But I think the actual Halloween Resurrection mask deserves some props. I think it is a decent attempt at making a Michael Myers mask, but pissed. And I think that was basically the point, was to kind of give it a more angry look. Now, do I think that defeats the purpose of the Michael Myers mask? Absolutely. But, you know what? I think it goes into alright. Because, especially in the film it's in, I think that they did a better job of lighting Michael Myers in that movie compared to H2O. There's a lot of shots of Michael in Resurrection where I think he looks pretty damn good. I think the problem is when you could see his eyes and his full face and it's all bright and stuff, you lose a lot of the menacing look that Michael should have. But to be fair, I think that could go for a lot of Michael Myers masks, you know. The Michael Myers always will look best in the dark. It's the Batman thing again, where him in the dark is never going to look any better, you know. So yeah, not much to say about the Resurrection mask. I do prefer the hair as well. It's a lot shorter and not going for this weird spiky look. I prefer the hairline, even though the hairline's a little weird on this mask. Not much to say about that. Brad Laree, pretty decent Michael Myers. Reminds me a lot of Dick Warlock. I didn't even say anything about Chris Durand Michael, but that probably says all you need to know. I found him completely forgettable, to be honest. There's a couple of scenes where I think he does emulate Nick Castle in trying to be very fluid and natural with his movements, walking more normally. But it all just ends up coming off as someone that's trying to look like a scary villain instead of just being a scary villain. Nick Castle, I feel like, does it so effortlessly, whereas Chris Durand feels like he's trying too much to emulate what came before, and that ultimately I feel like is what throws it all away. Anyways, moving on to the Rob Zombie timeline. We got, 5 masks to talk about. Pretty interesting. And then 3 masks from the Blumhouse trilogy. Alright, so, starting off, we're back to Michael Myers' origin. It's a pretty interesting origin this time around. The Rob Zombie films, I got things to say about them, but I do think that they were interesting. I think it was an interesting point in Halloween where it was experimental times. Rob Zombie not only single-handedly saved Halloween, but also single-handedly put it back into the same shithole that it was once in because of Resurrection. He somehow saved it with his first Halloween because, there's a lot of studio interference to make sure that he didn't make a total shit house, and ended up coming up, I think, as a decent film. And then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I'm assuming he just had full creative liberty because we got Hobo Michael Myers and Charles Manson on Laurie Strode's wall in her room. So, yeah, we got a lot of interesting choices in that film. But for the first Halloween, I have a very evident soft spot for the first Rob Zombie H1, and I would say it's probably 4th favorite Halloween. I don't think it's bad by any means. I think the introduction to everything is rough start. Absolutely rough start for that film. But I think it picks up after, Michael becomes an adult and he escapes. I think it really does pick up. But as for the design of Michael, Clown Kid Michael, terrible. Terrible clown costume. You didn't even give him the full clown costume. He had the clown pants and the clown mask, and the clown mask I actually think looks pretty good. And then everything else was terrible. He just had some fucking... I don't even know what shirt he had on when he did the killing spree thing. Which I will say, side note, I prefer Michael's killing spree as a kid in H1 Rob Zombie versus the original. I do like that they changed the origin for the mask so that he has it as a kid, so that makes the attachment to it a lot more understandable. And I will say I like that he kills 3 people on that night, so technically he becomes a serial killer. As opposed to the original Halloween where he just kills his sister. I don't know, it's just it's those small decisions that Rob Zombie makes that I actually appreciate, and it pisses me off when he does an absolutely horrible job at making a movie just because he wants to put crude and disgusting jokes in it. You could see the potential and then he completely just messes up again, which is insane to me. But anyways, Clown Kid Michael in Rob Zombie's remake was done terribly. I'm not a fan of the portrayal of Clown Kid Michael. I think Dave Fairs did a fine job, but I think story-wise it was a terrible take on young Michael. And honestly, he, I don't know, it's just not great. I just didn't care about it. I think the outfit looks fine, as you can see in this picture when he picks up the white mask for the first time. I think it helps a little bit, but even then, it would have looked cooler if he had the whole clown outfit. The top half just isn't a clown outfit. It's just a fucking shirt. So, knocks it down for me. Not even the full clown costume. You didn't even try. You get to stay here with the H2O masks and H5. A fate worse than death. The first appearance of the actual Kirk mask in that film. Well, it's not really a Kirk mask, but obviously we know what it's based off of. The white mask. I think it's awesome. This is actually one of my favorite masks in the franchise, and I don't mean the scarred mask. I think the scarred mask is fine, but the pure white, undamaged mask from Rob Zombie's Halloween is by far one of my favorite Michael Myers masks, period, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what it is. It takes all the features I love about the first mask, and then it does its own little thing, which is why I hold the Halloween 6 mask in such high regard, because it does something similar, actually, where it adapts the H1 mask enough that I think most people will be satisfied with it, but then it does something else. Oh, I'm yawning. Oh, here we go. Oh. Keep in mind, I'm running on voice crack. Keep in mind, I'm running on no sleep. Jesus. But I think the Rob Zombie Clean Mask, or as it is called now, the 92 Murder Mask, is one of my personal favorites. So, there's a little bias there. I think it's an amazing mask, especially the scene that it's in. Again, I've praised the... I have physically praised the killing spree in the first Rob Zombie's Halloween so much, because I love the addition of him killing 3 people, and the way that it's shot, the Tyler Bates music, I think it all goes very well. And once the shape stalks kicks in, when he comes out the hallway with the white mask, you can tell, okay, yeah, he's purely just Michael Myers at this point. This is the shape that we know and love. So I'm going to put him in Terrifying. I'll put him in Terrifying because, honestly, this is amazing. This right here is amazing. Now on to the rest of these. The Rob Zombie mask that we see later in the film is basically the same mask but scarred, and not much to say about it. I have a lot of nostalgia for the mask, I will say that. The Rob Zombie Halloween films were the first Halloweens that I saw besides the original. I'm pretty sure I saw the original first and then the Rob Zombie films, and I was very confused because I was like 6 or 7 years old, so I didn't know what the hell a reboot or remake was, so I was wondering why Michael was so massive, why he yelled, and why Laurie looks so different. But aside from that, I dug the first Rob Zombie Halloween. And, yeah, I do have a soft spot for these designs. Not the hobo design, but I will get onto that. But I do have a soft spot for these two specifically. I used to see them a lot on the internet back then, and I don't know, it's a design I hold very near and dear to my heart. Tyler Mane is Michael. You probably heard him millions of times in the community. He's one of the most well-regarded actors to play Michael besides James Ducournau and Nick Castle. He's a popular name when it comes to Michael Myers actors, and there's a good reason for it. His size. He is the biggest Michael Myers actor we've gotten, and it's not like he was just slightly bigger than some others. He was substantially bigger. This motherfucker was like 6'8". With the boots he wore, I think bumped him up to 6'9" or whatever, and he was just a big guy. He was huge, and he played him just brutally. He was a force of nature, not just in how he acted, but in the way he looked. You could tell that this guy would not let you run him over and just let you get away with it. And I feel like that goes for both of these, but I will talk more about the dream sequence version soon. But anyways, let's get down to the dream sequence version of him, which is in Halloween 2 at the start. I will say the only good part of that film was the dream sequence, and occasionally when you get to see Michael kill some people, that's fun, but aside from that, the dream sequence is really where the movie shines. It's also the most faithful to the original Halloween 2, obviously, because it takes place in the hospital, and there's a chase in it. And I will say this, the most I do know about this version of Michael is that, one, he has a slightly different jumpsuit, apparently, than the original Rob Zombie Halloween. It's a slightly different company, I think. Or it might be the same company, but a different model jumpsuit. Which explains why I kind of noticed something was slightly different about it. I never knew what it was, but makes sense. His mask obviously also suffers from the bullet hole that Laurie shot him with in the first Halloween. And I think that's pretty cool how he's just tanked it and now he just keeps going. I like that they try to... even though it feels like they make Michael seem more human in these films, it's nice that they try to still add that supernatural edge. Like, you really don't know what this guy is at this point, you know? That he's able to just shrug off a bullet to the head. Again, from a .357 Magnum, by the way. That's a powerful gun and would turn your brain into a slushie. And he's just able to shrug that off and keep hunting Laurie. Obviously, this doesn't happen in real life. Laurie just had a dream of that, but even then, Michael still shrugged off that bullet. So, regardless of whether the hospital chase happened or not, that still happened. Anyways, now we're on to Hobo Myers, which is seen in the later half of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and I actually don't hate him. I think I hate the decision to rip his mask near the end of the film and then have a bit more of it, and then he just has like a half mask. I think that looks stupid and is a terrible decision, but I do think most of the stuff where he is a hobo with the mask on doesn't look bad. I think it's scary to see Michael Myers with this like hoodie over him. It's just when he's walking around without his mask and it's just some bearded, greasy-looking guy. Rob Zombie clearly loves to just have everyone look like him in every film. Looks like he smells like Cheeto Puffs and toes. And yeah, just looks like a tall Rob Zombie walking around. But when he puts on the mask and he has the hobo outfit on with the hoodie over it, and the mask isn't ripped just yet, I think he looks pretty menacing. And it's just the usual Tyler Mane, Michael Myers stuff. So I'm gonna put that in. All right, I don't think it's as good as these two. I do think I'm more of a traditional guy when it comes to Michael. I do prefer just the simple jumpsuit. It's a classic look, and I feel like it's just hard to ditch it. But with all that out the way, we have the Blumhouse trilogy, and I got lots of nice things to say about specifically the designs of the Blumhouse trilogy. 2018. I have a 2018 mask myself, and credit to Mitchell Myers on Instagram. I do want to give him a shout out since we're here. He did an amazing rehaul on my 2018 mask, and it's beautiful. I love using it in skits. I love using it in photo shoots. It's a super comfortable mask to wear, and on top of that, the mask itself, Christopher Nelson did an amazing job trying to capture the first mask, the original mask, all over again, without breaking any copyright strikes, without breaking any copyright rules, because obviously you can't make an exact replica of the Kirk mask for a high budget, actual Halloween film without William Shatner sticking his nose in it. So you got to go with the next best thing, which is making something almost there, just almost there, but not enough that it's William Shatner. It just looks more like Michael Myers. So yeah. With all that being said, I will say I will put the 2018 up to, where is it? I'll put the 2018 into terrifying, because I do think that this design is genuinely beautiful. Dare say, right? I will say, dare say, I'll put it up with the original. I'm gonna do it. I'm breaking the rules. I'm breaking the freaking rules, and I'm putting it up with the original. This is the one time, and again, I have a lot of love for a lot of the other sequels where most people probably don't, but I have a lot of love for some of the other Halloween sequels, and a lot of respect for them for actually just existing, to be honest. But this is really when they brought back Michael, and I remember the 2018 trailer as a kid. I remember seeing the 2018 trailer, and I was so hyped because this felt like the original Michael Myers coming back. And it also helps that Nick Castle played the one scene you see him in the mirror. This felt like the definitive return to Michael Myers. John Carpenter was involved, obviously, and David Gordon Green was doing this whole thing. And say what you want about kills and ends, I feel like 2018 was the return to Michael Myers that we really needed. And he became as iconic as the Rob Zombie ones, where, you see him all over the place on, the internet and stuff, and it's like the big new main design that people have that they reference when they talk about Michael Myers. And I think that's super cool that we had that for a while. But yeah, these two right here, 40 years later, they nailed it again. I think Christopher Nelson did an amazing job with this mold, with the whole overall sculpt of this mask. I think the flashback version of it was super cool as well, although I'm glad they just went with the actual flashback mask, which it's not on this list, but if I were to put the flashback mask somewhere, I probably would put it in the shape as well, because that, again, is the closest we'll get to the original shape again. So very few instances where I feel like they could remake the original shape again to that same eerie degree, but I feel like 2018 and the H Kills flashback are really the few times that we got that again. But anyways, enough about that. One last thing to mention, and this goes for the rest of the David Gordon Green trilogy stuff, is that I think that James G. Courtney as Michael, also really good. A lot of his movements remind me of a mix between Dick Warlock's roboticness and Nick Castle. I feel like it's a good balance between the two to satisfy both people. And honestly, he has a certain menace to him that really, I feel like, is very reminiscent of a lot of other Myers actors in the past that wanted to play him more brutally. But I feel like he's able to balance the Jason Voorhees brutality that some of the other actors had, with Nick Castle being more low-key about how he hurts and kills people. I think he balanced that very well. Um, Anyways, on to Halloween Kills. My room is getting hot and I want to wrap up this video. Halloween Kills. I already know where I'm going to put this. I think this design is something I was mixed on. I used to kind of be more mixed on it when I was younger. I say when I was younger, this was like a few years ago, so not really younger. I guess technically younger, but not like substantially younger. But back in 2021-ish, I think is when this came out. Was very mixed on the burnt mask. I wasn't sure how I felt about it because it was such a different change. I'd never seen a burnt Michael Myers mask before. Obviously besides H2, and we never see the aftermath of it. But honestly, looking back now, it's still not my favorite. I prefer the 2018 mask. I prefer a nice clean Michael Myers mask, even though it's weathered and dirty. It's still cleaner than this. I still think it's a cool look, and I think they definitely up the brutality in this film. I think that's the one thing I really will defend Kills for, is the brutality. I think saves the film, at least for watch value. But to wrap this up, let's talk about Halloween Ends Michael. No, I'm not moving him there. I just wanted to try to move him up. Anyways, I would also put him in... Well, actually, no, I wouldn't. Mask design, I think, is an improvement, but the actual... I think it's in the same vein as the Hobo Myers, where I think it's cool, but the actual performance in the context of that version of Michael is what bothers it for me. He's very weak, and I know there's lots of reasons to it. I know people will be like, oh, well, he got beat up in the last film. It's like, yeah, but he gets beat up all the time. This is the first time they've really portrayed him as being this weak. The only other time I remember him being this weak was Halloween 5, and a lot of people hate that movie for lots of reasons, so clearly they never wanted to do that again. And we got this with Halloween Ends again, and to be fair, to their credit, they knew they knew this would be a controversial Halloween film, regardless of what you think, and it's a heavily controversial Halloween film for some reason. It's a piece of fiction, and yet everyone wants to kill themselves over it. But I remember when Halloween Ends came out, it was crazy. Things got incredibly toxic for no reason, and I was like, dude, you're arguing over a fictional serial killer that would kill any of you in a heartbeat regardless of your opinion. You guys need to chill. But speaking about this, years after Halloween Ends dropped, I still don't like the movie, and I still love James Duchovny as Michael. So there's the duality. I think it's funny seeing Michael in this decrepit old state. Depressing, but also funny, and I don't know. There's not much really for me to say at this point. It's the usual badass James Duchovny Michael stuff, with a bit of beat up old man sprinkled in for good measure. Not really much to say about this. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Probably not. I probably pissed off someone in here with my opinion, and I'm sorry in advance. But you know, at the end of the day, opinions are subjective. It was bound to happen. People would probably put the majority of these in shit. Most of the positive stuff you'd see here is probably just H1, maybe the Rob Zombie stuff, besides the Hobo one and the Blumhouse stuff. But I'm super cool and super unique, so I didn't say the same opinion that every other Halloween fan has. So there you go. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video and you want to see anything more like this in the foreseeable future, please consider dropping a like button, subscribing if you can. Until the next video, I will see you guys when I see you. Peace.